All right, yeah. So we're back. We're back with more interviews. Thank you for being with us. We're very excited. We've got two new industry professionals, and we've got a brand new student, and we are going to hear more about their things. So this is IMGD Marketing with Jerry Snook and Amanda Grow. So yeah, take it away.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, I am Jerry Snook, Community Manager for Standing Stone Games. I do the community work for both Dungeons & Dragons Online and the Lord of the Rings Online.
And I'm Amanda Grow. I'm the producer for Dungeons & Dragons Online.
I'm Katie. I'm the student who ran IMGD Marketing.
You say ran IMGD Marketing?
Yes. So I worked with Mass Digi for the past 13 months running their marketing campaigns, along with their Twitter account, and managed their PAX East booth.
Oh, very cool. And the project we saw today was a series of basically advertisements for, these are fictional games, presumably, right?
No, these are actually released games created by students.
Oh, okay.
Which one?
So the one that I ended up downloading was Clockout.
Ooh, okay. So Clockout is about an unpaid intern who fights his bosses in a classic fighter type game. But these were all games that were created by either undergrads or recent college graduates through Mass Digi's SIP and XP programs. And then they came to me and I did out the marketing campaigns for them.
Yeah, the key art, there were two different versions of the key art for the game that were pretty fascinating to me, and sort of the difference in direction there. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So in the summer, I took most of their assets that were ready for the game, and then I sneakily took from their ARC asset folders and just created my own campaigns, and I shared it with the devs and kind of got their feedback and stuff. And then we had an open conversation about stuff like that, and then they would go out. And then in the fall, I kind of created rough ideas for them to go with, and then they came up back with their own ideas and their final campaign stuff, and I tweaked little things here and made suggestions for them, and that's how the fall campaigns had different looks and feels than the ones.
One of the other things I was really curious about is when it came to putting the content into the channels for their ad campaigns. Can you tell us a little bit about the copywriting involved with that? Because I saw a lot of the visuals, but I didn't actually get to hear all the cool, gory details about when you're trying to make what's the right tweet, or which which wording do I want to use?
So all of that fun stuff. So I used what was honest about what Mass Digi was, and it is basically students who are creating games to get that real world experience without the real world consequences of losing a job or having to worry about all the bills and everything. It's more of just getting that experience of going through a full development process. So that's what I was pitching out as what Mass Digi was to on Twitter. And then with the games, I was very honest. These are just student-made games. These are games that were made within 20 weeks. We gave students, freedom of doing whatever they wanted, but they had restrictions of it being on a mobile platform and certain restrictions on what type of game. Not really though. They would have full expertise and creative freedom to go for it. So I didn't really have to worry too much about what was said. I kept on brand and be straightforward with it. But as far as the paid ad campaigns, I used Google ad campaigns. I found it easiest to work with the budget that we had, and I was able to pick geographical locations that worked well for the games. Because we had an array of games, so it made sense to pick games, countries that work well with the games. So.
What would you say, was the goal of the campaign to promote the games, to gather metrics about, say, how these campaigns work? I mean, what was sort of some of the bigger goals here for doing this?
So the goals for the paid ad campaigns were to get users, for the devs to have feedback from actual people playing them, instead of just friends and family members and people who could be slightly biased about certain things, because you can only get so many people to come play a game. So we gave it out, and we did this a week before the end of their internship program, so they had some data to use for a post-mortem, so they could figure out what they wanted to do for the future of this game, what they could plan for the future of this game. So that's what the paid ad campaigns were really about. In doing so, it allowed me to create different locations to work with. We kept two bases as like a steady like incline of like the United States and India. And then based on research and comparisons of CPIs, cost per installs, I was able to figure out what game would like do best in certain countries. So like China really likes fighting games. So I would clock out, and I also would believe one of the other games that we had at the time, I put that one in there and they did pretty well. They were able to get the users from China.
So can you give an example of something specific you learned to help a specific game?
Oh no, I have no idea.
Maybe it would help if I helped direct it. Let's just take the boba tea game first.
Okay.
You know, I didn't actually get the chance to see the game, but I saw the advertising. Can you tell me a little bit, sort of like, what did they learn from their campaign?
I believe they learned retention rates. They were able to figure out that maybe they needed to tweak things to keep the retention rate higher to day 3 and day 7 as the week went on. They were seeing how long people were playing. It's an idle clicker game, so like you wanted people to stay and play for long periods of time, but also to be able to come back like the next couple of days to like have that idle part of it. So that's what they were learning. They were learning about that. I was learning more about the geographical locations of like what would do best. So we used, I believe, Singapore, Taiwan, Romania for boba as their like outreach programs. Taiwan, where boba is, and I thought it would do well, and it actually did pretty well. We also used Indonesia, another close related area, and also did pretty well there too.
So did you have to deal with localization then during the advertising campaigns for those regions?
So yes, no. With Google Ads, they allow you to like select countries or like certain areas. So like you can be like, I want all of North America, do all of North America. But I selected countries simply because of their CPIs and because of the research I had done prior. Because we wanted to keep a pretty low cost per install. So we wanted to expand our budget between all of the games that we had going on at the same time. And of course, with MassDigi, they alternated like when their internship programs were. So when I would have a budget ready to go and planned out for one game and like for one thing going on, they would be like, so XP has just finished and here are their games. So here you go. So I had to like rework everything and try to work as much as I could with the budget given.
Noticed in your presentation when you talked about the projects, you mentioned that at first you were doing things more or less for them, but then you had a phase where you were sort of letting them do more of the work with you more and sort of come in and tweak and advise after the fact. And then one where they were completely on their own. And you said that coming in and sort of in that middle phase seemed to be really effective. Can you talk about why you thought that in particular went so well?
Yeah, so I had done part of it over the summer with Bewitching Boba. I had created these rough drafts of just like staple images of like from Google, and I was like, this is kind of what I was going for, and I like photoshopped things together for them, and I was like, this is kind of what I was feeling for your ads, because they didn't have the ad sets done just yet. So they came back with assets and stuff, and they gave me like a big like Google Doc of like, this is what we saw, this is how we created it in your vision, and like this is what we came up with, and we wrote really well with that way. And then in the fall, I wanted to try something very similar because I also had all of my like, normal classes and everything else that was going on. So I was like, okay, so now I have to balance everything with everything, and I don't have time for creating all of these ads. And at that time, I had prior summer games coming, and then I had XP coming in, so I had like 9 games in total. So I was like, I cannot do this and keep up grades and everything. So I thought that would be like a good way to keep balance and allow them to come in and help and have artists be creative.
I know we're almost out of time. Do you mind if I ask the
Yeah,
next
go.
question?
Yeah,
Okay.
go for it.
All right. So listening to this right now is a mobile game developer making their own game on their own, and they've got maybe a couple $1,000 and they want to make their game the next Tetris. What's the number one thing that you learned from this that you would like to tell them?
So the number one thing is to do a lot of research on the CPI that you're looking at, the country that you're looking at. Also, don't be afraid to try a different country, just willy-nilly. I think I randomly picked one of them at one point, I think Vietnam, and it did like extremely well simply because it had a low CPI, and I did a little more research and found out that like one of their most popular games at that time was a fighting game, and it had worked really well for the mobile app that I had done for that area. But yeah, that's my biggest advice is just a lot of research and understanding how you can stretch your budget.
Great. Well, thank you so much for letting us take a look at your advertising and learn a little bit more about what you did.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you.